This is part 2 of our 2024 calendar planner. Welcome, it's Winnie from BellaSunshyn. Here's our cover with the backing, and I also inked it. I tried to ink it on this side. I can't get it any darker. I had wished I had inked this side before I added my paper here, but I think it'll be okay because I don't think I'm going to see it that much anyway. So here's our cover, and I also worked on the sewing the spine. Now somebody did reach out to me and said that they glued their paper and their fabric to the spine, and theirs is not flexible like mine. It became very stiff. And I forgot to mention, which I really do apologize, is that I only put glue on the edges, not close to the edge, because I knew I was going to sew it. I just did glue around it using my 3-in-1 glue, and maybe that's why mine is still flexible. And if you put glue all over, then it becomes stiffer because of the glue, especially if you're using a PVA glue. It will make it stiff. So as you can see, I did some weird sewing to my spine. I did 2 different color. I just added this craziness here just to give it a couple of texture to my spine, and also kind of gives it a different look. And I'm having some regrets here. I'm looking at my spine against my cover to see if I had it all together, what it would look like. And I'm not happy with it. As you can see, I used gray thread, and then I used the off-white to do the craziness sewing. And this gray thread is clashing with this color border, and I'm not liking the look. Like, it doesn't look, to me, it doesn't look clean. So I was trying to figure out how can I change it so I would be happy with my cover. Options are using some kind of lace to cover it up, which I tried, and I did not like the look. It was taking away from the cover. It would have looked great in the back, of course, but not the front. So the other option I had was using another fabric, which I could not find any fabric that I have that would go with this. So the only option that I have left is removing all the gray thread and resewing it using this off-white around the border of my spine. I know that sounds crazy. I slept on it. I waited. I'm kind of contemplating what I wanted to do. In the end, I think, knowing myself, I want to be 99% happy with the work that I'm doing, because at the end of the day, I want to be motivated, inspired to work on this journal. And I don't want to pick it up and look at the spine and go, oh, I wish I had redid that thread. So to avoid that, I'm going to go ahead and take the time to go ahead and remove this and try to improve it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Take this off, resew it with the proper thread that's going to look better, and then we can move on to the next step. Here it is. Nicely done. I'm glad I did it. I'm happy now with the outcome. It looks so much better. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and attach our board to our spine, and it's supposed to go something like this. Some people use the cinch machine to punch holes, which what we're wanting to do is punch holes on our board. And I don't have a cinch machine, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a template, because I might end up making another planner with the same type of book, the same size. So what we'll need is, I have this We Are Memory Keepers. I'm not sure what this is called. I got this at a thrift store, but it helps you put holes in your signatures. And you'll need a cardboard. And what you want to do is have a cardboard that's going to be the same size as your book. So I would just put the cardboard together like this, make sure it's flat, and then use my pencil to mark a line and then cut that piece. So here's my piece, and now we need this. And what we want to do is place this. As you can see, my spine is longer than this little device thing. So I just kind of did a mark to make sure that I can center it and put the holes in the proper place. So I would just line this up the best that I could like this. And then attach this like this. But the problem that I have, I can't put this in, so it's gonna be difficult for me to punch my holes. But I need this because, as you can see, there's already like a dark circle there. That's where I want to punch my hole, so I know everything is equal distance. But if you didn't have this, you didn't have this tool, all you got is a ruler, I would use my ruler. And you see this here, this line, I would just, whatever line you can choose whatever you want, but this is going to be enough on the edge. What I would do is, let me show you guys, I would just go ahead and line this up like this. I don't think I have a straight edge here, and do my pencil like this. There's your mark. And then what I want to do is, I probably want to do, like, as you can see on the ruler, you can do, it really depends on how tall your book is. So with mine, I can probably go 1.5 centimeters distance. So I can start like one here and then another one on 3. And that's going to be enough gap. I don't want it to be too big, like, you know, I don't want to go 1 to 4. That's just way too much. So what I would do is I would do my marking. So let's say we did that, 1.5 centimeters. Okay, let's just pretend we have all our marking. So there's our mark. And what you would need to do is use your pokey tool, and you'll need a better surface than I do. And you just punch a hole first, or you can go ahead and use a hole punch. Let's see, here we go. And you want to make sure you're consistent. If you're going to do a hole, make sure you go above the line and right in the middle of your marking. It would be like that. So you want your holes to be consistent, and that's what you would do. You can also use your crocodile. And there's 2 sizes. There's the bigger one. So if we were to punch a hole here, you got that size. And then you also have that size. So as you can see, they're different sizes. I'm gonna go with this one because I don't want something that big. And also, a lot of times my puncher is not strong enough to cut through this thickness, but I know this will. So you might want to check to see how much your punch, if you have a good one, then you may not have that problem, but I know I do. So I'm going to go ahead and use this little device and make my marking. So here's my holes. Now I want to make sure that when I do the hole, or when I punch it with my crocodile, I have a straight one. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna go ahead and make a line. Okay, there's my line. Then all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and punch my holes. And I'm just going above this line, like I said. You go above that line and you try to put that circle in the middle. Like that. I had forgotten that my little crocodile has this little marking here where if you set it, you're gonna have the same outcome with your, I guess when you're punching a hole, the distance from your edge. As you can tell, when I started mine was not consistent. I mean, I went over the line and everything. So make sure yours is set, because I had forgotten mine, and then you can just do the holes, and it's always going to be in the same distance. So we actually didn't need to do the line. I went ahead and did another one. I have it all marked and ready. So now our next step is going to be putting our holes on our cover. I'm gonna start out with the back one in case I mess up. So we're just gonna line up our cardboard, and I'm just gonna clip it to hold it in place. So now that's covered, you could just use your crocodile and go ahead and start punching, but mine is too thick, it won't go through. So what I'm gonna have to do is draw my little circle to trace. Oops. Okay, so now I just remove this. Hard to tell, but I can see it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start punching my hole. And I'm gonna have to, since the pencil is kind of light, I'm gonna have to go ahead and do this off camera. Here it is. I got a little wonky here, but that's okay. As you can see, this is why it was important for us to reinforce this section here, because I knew we were going to punch a hole. And so now it's actually pretty strong. I don't have to worry about ripping or anything. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing for the front cover. When we do our front cover using our template, we're gonna have to turn our template this way, and then we can go ahead and clip it and trace it and do the holes. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera. Here's the cover with the holes. Now we are ready for the next step. We want to go ahead and take our spine. Just double check to make sure your spine is still the same height as your book. If it's way too long for you, go ahead and cut it before you go with the next step. So now what we're going to do is I want to glue my spine to the edge over here on the front. And then on the back. To get an idea what it would look like, I went ahead and pinned my spine to the cover. So this is what the front would look like. And then when you have it, it's gonna be, as you can see, it's gonna be like that. And what we wanna make sure is the spine here is what you want your spine to be. Mine is 2 3/4. So this is the base I'm going to be using. I want to make sure that it goes right in there, and so it doesn't, it's not in the way. The easiest way to do this is going to be marking your spine first. From the grocery bag, from on this edge, I measure 1/2 inch because I wanted 1/2 inch to be glued to my front and my back cover. So this is 1/2 inch. So I just did some line here. And what I want to do is I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac, and I am going to glue just, I'm going to put glue on the edging of my fabric over here. And then a bead of glue right where my line is. And then just on the top here and then over here. I don't need to put glue in the middle. I just want to make sure my spine stays in place. because when we are going to be sewing this by hand, so I just don't want this to be moving. So that's why we don't really need a whole lot of glue, but we need enough glue to hold it in place. So what you need to do is go ahead and put your glue, put your front cover in like this, and then once you have that glued, I would take your base, which mine again is 2 3/4. I'm gonna put it right here and do the same concept with my glue here, and then place the back cover like this, and that would be it. And then we can move on to the next step. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this off camera. So while our cover is drying, what we need to do is work on the hidden spine. Remember, this is my base, so what I want to do is I want to cut my piece to the size of my page. So I just need to go ahead and cut that piece. Then what we need to do is I need to go ahead and mark my line here. Remember, I have 6 signatures, so I need to do each 1 centimeter each. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my line. Here's my spine, and I had to figure out how many stitches I wanted for my calendar. So this one had 6, and I'm going to go with 5 this time. I was looking at the book itself, and it looks like they had a 5 stitch onto their book. So I think I'm just gonna follow that and do 5. So what I did with this one is I measured the 1 centimeter, and on the top and on the bottom it's a centimeter and a half. And then from there I made it so they're equal distance. I did 4 centimeter each, so that gives me 1 2 3 4 5 6 holes that we would have to punch, and that give us our 5 stitch. So I made that, and then I also made the other template. Need to go ahead and label. Always label your template, the top, so you know where to put it. So with this one is what we're going to use so we can put our hole in our signatures, like this, like that. Okay, so now what we need to do for this one is I want to go ahead and glue the fabric, which I'm going to turn this over because this is going to help me to put the hole once we have the fabric glued to our base. Up with the gray first. So with this, I am going to use my fabric tack, and I am just going to put glue on the edges here. I don't need to put in the middle, I just want it on the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I waited overnight for my book cover to dry. I want to make sure the glue is totally dry before we continue. So when I was looking at my spine, I noticed two problems. One is, for some reason, I think I must have cut this shorter, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have kept it the same length. And so it's shorter, and now on the top and the bottom we can see a gap, and we can actually see the grocery bag, and I don't like that look. So what I needed to do was make another one, which I did. I made another one to the same height, so it's gonna cover now. The other problem I noticed with this is if I had kept this original, when you fold, you see how that piece just kind of comes out. It's not tight, but it's too wide for this book. Even if we glue it, I think I'm always gonna have a problem with it warping. Can you guys see that? So I had to make this one a little bit shorter. So I had to cut just a sliver. You see that? But don't cut your piece when you're, remember we had glued this piece and then we put this and then glue it. don't cut it first. Cut it once you used it as your template when you glued these two together. I hope that's making sense. I've been fighting a migraine for a couple of days now, and it's kind of hard to think a little bit. So my new one now, it's gonna cover the whole spine, and then when it folds, you see how it didn't come out. It's like a perfect size for it in there. See? Before we finish up our book cover, let's go ahead and finish up the spine. I want to go ahead and glue our last piece of fabric to this, so that way it can dry overnight, and then we can work on putting the holes in there. So I am just gonna cut this to the true size of my spine. And again, I'm just using the fabric tack, and I'm just gonna put glue on the edges. While our hidden spine is drying, we can go ahead and work on securing our front and back cover to our spine. So what we're going to need is some kind of needle, and I'm using this needle. It's called a yarn sewing needle. They come in, I don't know, I got this at a Japanese place called Daiso. I don't know if you guys have Daiso there. And they come in 3 pieces, and it's just a very blunt needle, and then it's got a big eye in there so you can put your thread easily in there. So this is what I'm going to use, and what I'm going to need is, I want to put a embroidery, I think this is what they're called, embroidery thread. I want to use this because it's got like at least 5 strands in there. I mean, if you don't have it, what I would just do is, if you're just using regular sewing thread, just put 5 pieces together, because you do want it to be thick. What we're doing is we're going to be putting it against here. You remember where our hole is? It's going to be like this, and then there's also going to be one over here. So what we're going to need to do is, since I don't know how much I'm going to need, I'm just going to leave it off on this. I'm just going to leave this together. So I'm just going to put my thread in the needle and the eye, and it's that simple. I lied. I actually went with a smaller needle. This is I think these are just regular hand sewing needle, and I needed to be a little bit sharp because I forgot that we have to go through 2 fabrics and a grocery bag. So we want to make sure our needle is strong enough to go in and be able to punch a hole into our fabric. Go with the top. So I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna go from the inside first, go from the outside, pull. Oh no, I'm gonna have to cut because we're supposed to tie a knot. Okay, let me see. Okay, I have 6 size, ooh, moon. 6 of the size of my cover. So now what we want to do is, we want to decide on, we want to be consistent. So you need to decide whether you want to start with your needle all the time at the top of your hole or at the bottom. So I'm going to start mine at the top, and I'm starting on the inside because we're going to need to tie a knot. So I'm going to start from here. And Moon is staring at my string here. This is why it's important that we wait until the glue is really dry, because then your spine is going to start moving, and then you'll get a lot of glue on your needle. So I'm just going to leave about this much for a tail. That's going to be easy for me to make a knot. So now that you have it from the outside, like this, right? What you need to do is, oops, you're gonna, oh no, let me try that again. You go from the inside. And so you want to go over your cover like this, and then I'm going to go to the same hole, but I want to make sure I'm not splitting my thread on the top here. So it would look like that. Okay, so with this one, you can go ahead and tie your knot if you want, but because my book is a little bit bigger, I want to make sure it's really secure, so I'm going to go one more time. Same hole. And then that's, so I went there twice, so now I have 3 strings here. So now I want to go ahead and do the knot. So now I want to do my second knot, but when you do your second knot, make sure you are at the bottom of your first hole. So I'm going to do the second knot. Like that. Then we're going to go ahead and do our second thread here. We're going to go to the top of our second hole. There we go. Looks like this. Like this. Take it in. And then I think they call this a chain stitch. So now what we need to do is we need to take our needle and go through inside this first thread that we have here. So you're gonna go like that. Like this. And then you want to go back to the same hole as to where we were without splitting our thread. So this is what we have so far, like that. Okay. Again, what we're doing is we're going to go to our third hole now. Put it on the top. Pull. And then you're going to go in here like this. Pull it tight. And then you are going to go to the same hole. Like that. See? And you just keep doing that until you're at the very end. To the end, you're going to do the same concept of what we did on the top. You're going to go over your cover like this, and you are going to do your hole. Same hole here. So you're going to the same hole here, and then you pull. And I'm going to do mine another 3 times because that's what I did on the top. Okay, so that was 3 times. So now to tie this over, turn it this way. Once you are happy with the thread position, like this, then you are going to go under to all your thread here. like this, right? And then pull this one tight here just to make sure this is tight. So pull, and then you are gonna go in between like this. Whoops, did you guys see that? All right, let's try that again. So here, you're gonna take your needle and you're gonna go like this. That's one, and I'm gonna do it, remember, try to do it to the bottom. I'm gonna do it one more time. Okay, I got mine all done. Looking good. I like it. It was fun, you know, it's a different way to do your spine and your sewing. So now let's move on to the next step. I got the hidden spine, and I went ahead and did the sewing just around the edges. And then I also did my pre-hole. I think it's gonna be a lot easier. As you can see, it's hard to see it on this fabric. So that's why we need to do it on the back. And what I use on this, I have this little device. I'm not even sure what this is called. Again, it's from We Are Memory Keepers. It says it's like a 1/16 inches, I guess is the hole. And again, I find things at a thrift store. I have no idea what they are, and I just buy them just in case I'll ever use them. So I use this all the time. So that's what I use for this, and it went through right on my fabric here. So I have the bubble wrap, I have the gray fabric, and then the thin layer of the fabric. So now what we need to do is our signature. So we need to go ahead and just put our nice completed cover aside. And let's take a look at our signatures. Here's my year's worth count. Here's my calendar for the year. I'm only doing monthly. That's how I do my planner. I don't do the weekly. This is plenty for me. And what I use, I did make this calendar on my own using my Excel program. But I did add the background picture. That is the William Morris set. I just made it lighter, changed the color a little bit because I need it to be light enough so when I write, I can still see my writing. And this one, I think I got this at a website, like a public domain. I do belong to a digital collage club. Tina does have this, but it's a bit different, and I did use her William Morris set that she has on her club. So now I have a couple more steps before I can sew in my signatures. I have my base already. It's all inked, and remember, I also reinforced it. So now I need to go ahead and glue my pages. And I'm just using my art glitter glue, and I'm just putting glue on the edges here, and that's it. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera, and that will help me decide whether I want to add more stuff to my pages before we sew them in. Before I start gluing, I wanted to tell you guys a little tip. If you guys are using a base like I am, with using the book pages as your base, what you want to do is make sure you put your pages back into the sequence of the right pages. Like what I mean is, you know, this is 3, and then you go from 5, and then it goes to 135. So I'm kind of putting them all together, and they fit better. Unlike if this one, I just did some random pages, and look at this. I got this, the difference between this and this. See that? It becomes longer. So if you want to avoid that, just make sure your pages are in the right sequence, then you're not going to have that problem. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on my signatures. I have all my calendar glued to my signature, and I did add a couple of things to the pages. you can see so far, this is how thick my book is, which I think is going to be plenty. It gives us enough room. You know, this is going to grow as I work on it. So on every signature, I added a insert between my calendar, and then another one, and then an envelope that I made for each centerpiece. So I'm not going to glue this yet because I'm going to need to sew inside here and then glue it later as I work. So here's the insert for this calendar, and then you'll have one. So for each signature, just in case you guys are curious, my size is the height of my pages is 9 1/8 inches, which is approximately about 23 centimeter, and the width is 7 inches, which is about 18 centimeter. And each signature has 4 full pages, and then I have 3 inserts, and then an envelope. And I think that will give me enough room or pages to work on for monthly, because each month I'm gonna have the 2 inserts, and then I have 5 blank full pages. So I think that's gonna be plenty. So now the next step is going to be putting our holes on our signatures. I was doing an experiment on the last one here, as you can see. I always have a hard time trying to get my pokey tool on the outside over here. So what I did on this one, as you can see, there's red marks here. All I did was I put in my template that I have here, and I lined it up, and I used a red pen, and I just colored the hole, which imprinted inside my pages. So now when I do it in the middle like this, it's easier for me to see where my pokey tool should be going. So let me show you guys on this one here. All I did is I took the first page, folded, and then I clipped my template, and with my red pen, I just put red mark where the holes are, and it should put a red mark on my pages, on my page actually. Now this is an extra step. You do not need to do this. I do it because I think it makes my life simple. So once you have that, I can see the mark. I know you probably can't see it, but there's the mark. So then what I would do is then put my pages together and clip it. And with all the little insert that you have, you know, take your template and figure out where you want to place it. If you know, making sure it's reaching where the thread is going to be. So just double check that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So once I have them clipped, and I'm just using these, I think these are sewing clip for fabric, and I just got this off Amazon, and this is what I use all the time. It's a lot easier to put them in. So I only put 2, and I normally just put 2 on the one that's on the top. The bottom one, I don't put 1. If you think you need 1, go ahead and do it. I just don't have enough. I only have enough for to use 2. Then you take your pokey tool, and where your red mark is, you just put your pokey tool in there, and then just press forward, and then you should see it on the other end. And you should be seeing it on where the red mark that I have here. I hope you guys can see that. Okay, once you're done putting your hole, just take out your template so you can use it for the other, and keep them clipped together, because you're going to need to clip them to put them into our hidden spine. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this for all my signatures. So I have all my signatures pre-hole and I still have them connected. So now what we need to do is take our hidden spine, make sure we are placing it in the right place here, and we need to start sewing our signatures. And I'm going to start from the, I guess from the outside first. So I'm taking my November and my first signature, which is November and December, and I'm just going to be using this color. I'm trying to think what this thing is called. Well, I'm sure you guys I've seen this before. Crochet thread, I think that's what it's called, and it's pretty sturdy. So instead of using my needles, my hand sewing needles that I used earlier, they're kind of thick and I don't want to make my holes any bigger. So I'm going to use a long, thin one. Let's see. But it's going to be pretty sharp here, so I have to be careful. All right, so the rule of thumb is you do 3.5 of your thread that you're using to bind to for your signature. So I'm just going to do 1. So I have the thread on my needle. The eye on this needle is still pretty big, so it's easy to put your thread in there. So now we're doing a 6-hole pamphlet stitch. Okay, let me explain the 6 pamphlet stitch. So I made a little template. So as you can see, I have a red marking and a black marking. And the red marking with the circle on there, it indicates that is from poking your needle inside of your signature. And the black one is actually poking from the outside. So this is gonna make more sense once I show it to you guys. As you can see, there is a number, so you get to the same place as number 1. So we have 6 stitch. Let me show you guys. Okay, so I started doing the video on how to show you guys on how to sew your signature using the 6-hole pamphlet stitch, and it was becoming very difficult to do it, and I think you guys might get confused. And then I just realized I forgot to attach my hidden spine here, so I'm gonna have to redo this over. But to show you guys what I'm talking about, let me make it easier for you guys. So let's say this is our signature and our hidden signature. Let me show you guys on how to sew it. This is probably the easiest way. So if this was our paper, we are going to one over here from the inside, pull your needle or your thread, and you're going to leave a string, a tail, and then on the second one you're going to go with the second hole, going from the outside, you bring that in, and then you go to the third from the inside, you pull your string, and then the fourth you are going back to this hole. But remember, try not to split your thread, because if you split your thread, then you're not going to be able to pull it to be tighter. See, like that, I just split my thread. That's not what you want to do. All right, so we are on number 4. We're in, there it is. And now you're going to number 5 here. And as you can see, this thread is a lot longer because you're skipping this first hole. So you go to the 5th one here, like this, and then from the outside you're going to hit your 5th hole, which is step 6, pull, and then your 7 you're going from the inside, like this. And then on the 8th, from the outside, you are going to do on the 5th hole. And you pull. And then the 9th is going to be from the inside. And then when you come to 10, which is where you started, you see how this string is on this side? You want to make sure the other one is going to be on the opposite end, like this, because what you're going to do is you're going to tie this together, and it's going to hold this piece in place. So it's going to look like they're all the same amount of thread in there. And that's how you would do the 6-hole pamphlet stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and redo my signature here and put all my signature into my hidden pocket. I wanted to show you guys the first one I did, what it should look like with the hidden spine on there. As you can see, there it is. And just make sure you're pulling your thread where it's not loose. So I just kind of do a little test here to see if they're loose, and they seem to be fine. So now I have my middle part here, and I can go ahead and tie a knot. So one is the shorter tail is going under, and then we're going to do that, and then this one is going to go over and do another knot. And then you just cut your piece if you want, or you can leave it, whatever you think you want to do. I'm going to leave it for now. And then that is the first signature I have finished. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest. I did want to show you guys, here's the crochet thread that I am using in case you guys are interested. As I was saying, I have been fighting a migraine and it's just not going away. It's been days and I'm doing this very slow. So it's taking me a while to finish putting in my signature into the hidden spine. So I need to publish this video on Monday. So let me go ahead and show you guys what else you all need to do to finish your project. So before we do anything with our hidden spine, you need to decide on your cover whether you are going to want to put a dangle into the side of this, like this, right? So you're gonna have to put a hole to put in whatever device that you have. I have this, which is, it's a little too bulky. And there's one that is flat that has this, but it's like a brad. That would have been perfect for mine, but I don't have it. So I don't want to use this, so I'm finding another alternative. I have these can opener, you know, from Soda Pop. And so I'm thinking I am going to put it here. And I'm going to use a brad to hold it in place. So when I'm choosing a brad, I need to make sure that my brad is big enough that my Soda Pop opener doesn't come out. So this is not big enough. So I actually have this, and this is gonna make it secure. It's not gonna come up at all. I might be able to move it like sideways, but it's not gonna come off. So that's what you're looking for. If you don't have brads that's big enough, you can also do buttons if you want. So what I'm gonna need to do is I want to figure out where I want to put this, because I need to punch a hole, which I already determined where the center is, which is just like right here where the letter A is. So I am gonna use this tool again to put my hole in there. I don't need it big, I just need it big enough to, as you can see, this is pretty small, so I just need it big enough to be able to put that in there. So here it is. There's the hole, and let's do a little test here. Like this, and see how it's not tight yet. We'll make it tighter, but you see how it can move. And then if we wanted to hang, try a dangle here, and it would just go like that. So, and then you can move it up to kind of get it out of the way. Here's what I added. I totally went different from what I showed you guys. The green was not working out for me. So all I did is I went ahead and used this tape again. You can use masking tape, and I covered the brad, but I did add glue. So I need to go ahead and let this dry before I can glue my signature or my hidden spine. So let's say it's dry, and the last process we have is putting our hidden spine into this. So what I would do is I would put glue all over the spine, especially on the edges, in the middle. You want to have enough glue that it's going to stay onto this spine, and I'm just going to be using my 3-in-1 glue. So once you have this glued all over, what you would need to do is you would need to go ahead and put that in like this. But first, to make things easier for you, is I would clip my signatures together like this. So like this. And that way, when you have the glue here and you're putting it on the spine here, you want to use your bone folder, and at the back, you start from the back and you just press it down, making sure you're working the glue, and then you take your signature down, and you want to get in between here, and then you would do that for every single signature until you come to the end. So once you do that, I would also do a clip. I would clip in between my signatures like this. I would put one there and then one at the bottom here. And then with this, I would put something tall to kind of hold them in place to be up at all times, like this. I would let that dry for overnight, and that would be the last part. So for part 3, I'm gonna do a video on just, showing you guys the final product, and maybe I might do a closure and then add some dangles. We'll see. I really appreciate you guys watching part 2. Thank you guys so much for your support. Until next time, happy crafting.